Okay, now remember 30 minutes ago when y'all were thinking, Bill, you don't know what you're doing because you thought I put this in way too dark. Notice I only put this first layer of skin tone in already, and how this is not near as dark as it was. But here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start bringing these scratches into it because I want some of them to blend into the skin tone. So what I'm going to do is put the fuzz before I get any further with the skin tone. I'm going to start putting some of this fuzz in here because I don't want it all white. I found my fiberglass scratch pen, which is what I should have used earlier to do these. Would have been quicker. Would have been quicker if I'd have just laid it over and then scratched them all out. But make sure we don't go crazy here. We just want that edge rough. We don't want that stencil look. We'll let that skin tones, when we get in here, start blending into that, and then we'll still have to pull out a couple little tiny, flyaway little cloth pieces. In the end, if you've reached this point, you have decided that it looks horrible, and you're stupid and you probably shouldn't have tried this, then you're probably on the right path. At least that's how I start most of my paintings. I usually talk to myself like that at least once a day. Now, you guys heard a lot about texture stencils, stuff like that, how awesome they are, skin texture stencils, everything else. Well, this is a regular old dryer sheet. I'm going to use it and spray through. Now, what I'll do is spray one layer over some of the scratching and erasing I've already done. You got to be careful though, because it's hard to see where you're spraying when you're spraying through a texture stencil, especially when you're doing these super light tones like this. I know it looks really funny right now because there are no eyebrows. Have no fear. I've cursed myself 6 times already, which means everything's going to be fine. I'm going to definitely get up in here a little tighter on this and use it because there's wrinkles under them eyes that are barely noticeable on women when they've got a lot of makeup on. But they're there even under the makeup. Do a little bit more figure eight. I want to blend into this corner a little better. We're gonna work some transparency over this corner to get the right coloring we want. Oh, see what happened here? You gotta be careful. Somehow I got some red paint on something. Good thing it's in a spot I haven't done anything with, and I'll let that dry, and then I'll just erase that off. And see, I didn't get quite enough coverage there. Now we got a look. really, really look at where these shadows come in. Look for these subtlest of tones. But, since we're going to do some transparent work, make sure you got coverage with your opaques. I'm also going to run this up in the hairline. Probably a little too much because I don't have any lines in there yet. I don't have it drawn out very well. So I'm just going to put a little extra in there because I got some dark going in off of that scalp. Because there'll be skin, light colored skin under that scalp. I'm sorry you didn't see me put that in there. That's what I did right there. Even before I get into my darker colors, I am going to establish this little edge of the eyelid with an eraser. There'll be some color that goes in there, but because I don't want to lose it, and there'll be off of this, there'll be eyelashes that'll hide a lot, but I don't want to lose it when I start putting colors in. And as we've putting colors in, you'll notice any lines, any pencil work I had done is now disappearing. So mostly I try to erase that stuff out anyway as I work, because I don't want it to come back through my work in the end, depending on, you know, and of course it depends on how real I want to work. I don't do a whole lot of hyper realistic portrait work anymore, and I probably won't take this one all the way. Now above here there's a shadow or a highlight above the creasing. Of course it's not going to be much at all right now, because what we're really looking for is start bringing our darker colors on top of everything. Might do just a little bit more erasing before we put that secondary color in there. We want a little, because we're still going to work one more layer of opaques. And under here, there's a lot of stuff going on. And a couple of randoms, just a couple little random highlights right there. All right, let's move on to our next color. Okay, you remember me telling you I put that one color to the side earlier because I thought it would work out, and it will. So I want to start, even though this color, this shadow color over here over the eye is going to be much darker than this, I'm still going to blend it in, this color into it. And just doesn't get a lot. Around the outer edges, and then blend it back in. Your shadow color, so blend it back in, make it smooth transition. We'll have more color going in here and things will start to look a lot better. Notice how this color has a little bit of a blue tone to it. And just to keep myself on track, because I got a darker color coming over here, just putting that in there to keep myself on track. But I don't want to go too far because it'll start messing with the reddish tones that I need. That'll be very important. Back to my palette again, and mixing up a darker tone for this shadow using the same techniques that I've been using. Don't worry about getting into here because that's a different tone. So make sure you're paying attention to when tones change. When you're working this way, that's important, because this will be more reddish. If I came in here with all of this, I would cover up all this work I did and not be able to get my red work in here. This color below the eye is a different color than above the eye. Above the eye is more of this bluish, purplish tone. And from here, all this, it's all a question of just paying attention to where your shadows are formed and where your shadows come in. Once you understand that you can check those gradients, you'll get better as you start understanding the planes and how light and shadow falls on a face. But you can really do some pretty amazing things just by paying close attention. Understanding the planes and all that stuff, and we're going to get into some of that stuff, is what will help you create images that don't even exist and help you make changes to references, how to change and alter shadow and color. See how I want to blend that in so it's not so abrupt, just real gentle. We still got more color going up there. As I continue to build, now remember, some of this looks really funny right now because I still got color to put in here, but they're different tones, so I can't put them in just yet. They're lighter and they're a different tone. So I don't want to use this shadow color there, as I was saying. Once I start bringing in these colors around here, and I bring this color in, this will start to come around. You'll grasp it really quickly what's going on. Okay. Now this part you got to be careful with. What I've done is mixed up. I took that red and black without any of the white in there. Same color I was working with. What I want to do is work with a transparent and start blending out carefully. Got my reference really close so I can see what's going on with those shadows. still got eyelashes to go up here, so be aware of that. And I still have eyebrows to put in there. Notice how light and gentle I'm going to work with this color. I'm going to bring that crease line in. A little bit underneath the eye. I can get away with using a little bit of it over here. Then I'm going to put some in the dark background just to darken that up a little bit, just so quit messing with my eyes so much. And that's the end of your hair, so the shadow. And we'll be going over the top of that, of course. Now let that shadow blend in the outer edge. And this color's not exactly accurate, but close enough to make me happy. I've got to clean my airbrush here because I've been using a lot of opaques, and it's not uncommon at all for your airbrush start acting up when you've been using a lot of opaque. I'm not going to get too heavy yet. See how realistic that's starting to look, and I happen to put the eyelashes in. Now I know it's doesn't look perfectly accurate, but once we start putting the eyelashes in and these little details around the eyebrows, it's going to really start to come to life really quickly. This is why I was saying I need to clean my airbrush. I didn't get a clean line here. It's okay. You can gently erase just that color if you're very careful using a soft erase. I let it set for a moment. Like I said, I'm on TerraSlate, so if you were on something like Yupo, you would have to let this sit longer or the paint would come back off really quickly. Also, those really subtle tones and highlights right here and you'll see I've still got the shade up here. I can use some of that because there's a little bit of red tones in there. I can use it up next to the hair, but I've got to bring more red into the tone. So gentle. My shadow line ends up here. And that shadow will actually get darker than this, but I got to bring some bluish tone to it. Right now it looks like it's a lot. Once we get the other colors around it, it will tone out. Got to get a little more blue in this. If I stick with just the Zorn palette, of course, I don't have that good blue mix. It would be smart of me to actually mask that off, but I'm not going to because I'm not smart. Nobody's accused me of that. right here, I want a little more texture in that, what I got. So I'm gonna put my, and just, I can see it, you gotta be real careful, but I'm working in that circular motion with the texture. Let me zoom in on you what that looks like. I'm gonna bring you all down. Like I said, I got a little bit carried away here, and there's a little bit of a highlight that runs across top, so I can get away with a little bit of erasing there. Plus I need to put a little bit more bluish tone in there, and that shadow should run up. Looks to me like the shadow runs up just a little bit higher up into that eyebrow, but we don't want to bring this shadow too far across. I can use this color. Let me test. I think I can use that color on the other side. Yep, I want to be able to use that color here. So where my shadow is, up into my eyebrow, which is right there, go really, really slow and gentle. You can bring it into the eyebrow is fine. Blend out from the other side, but leave some of that highlighting. Again, I need to put this need to put that crease there, but again, my airbrush is going to need a little attention. You'll quickly find when you start working with a lot of opaques, that there's a little darkness right here. I use it, I can get away with that. But yeah, you'll quickly find when you're working with a lot of opaques that they tend to clog the airbrush a lot faster than transparents. And that while I have a transparent in now, I've been using a lot of opaques up to this point. Some of that purplish tone, I want to lay it in on that eye. And like I said, always if you feel the need, I'm going to lay it in up here too, because that red and black tone makes a purple. If you feel the need, mask off. I'm not concerned about being 100% accurate nearly as much as I'm concerned about showing the process and steps that I'm using. This is, to me, this is more about showing the process than what the actual outcome is. Although, if the outcome is horrible, nobody's going to pay attention to what I'm doing, of course. Up here, that purplish tone, shadowed, will be a little bit more red, and it will come out, blend out farther with it. But we'll have to change colors to do that. I think at this point it's probably pretty evident that the skin is really starting to take on a realistic look. I'm going to come over with but I have to go really slowly and then pull this up and look to make sure I don't get that too dark. So I'm blending this back in even before I get to my red tone, but I want that rougher look, I gotta have some of that texture going on. So just barely hitting the surface with paint. I mean, barely. You shouldn't even see the paint hit the surface. You should paint, know that your paint's hitting the surface, stop and look. The more you do it, the faster you can do it. However, when you first start, it's very important to take and spray. If we were working on, let's say we were working like this, I would want it to, here's what I'll show you on plain white. If you were doing this technique, I would want you to go like this. Stop, look, and literally, you can't even see that probably on your screen. Try to autofocus. Literally have to be that light. Like you can see it hitting that dryer sheet just a little bit. And those tones need to be so subtle that you can barely make them out on your pass. Then you stop, you analyze. Does it need to go more? Does it not need to go more? Like I said, the more you do it, the quicker you can do it. I paint like this all the time and you see me do that, but you don't realize that I'm actually stopping and looking because I've done it so many times it only takes me 1 second to stop and look, and then I'm back to painting again. So I'm painting for 1 second, stop, look at my reference, you know, and swinging my head back, and it happens just naturally, but it takes a lot of practice. Okay, now I've got a little black, tiny little black, and a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to do a little bit more shading in right here. I need some bluish tones, but the Zorn palette does not have any, and what I wanted to do was, for those of you that aren't real handy at color mixing, traditionally could follow the palette that I'm using and realize that you really can get a very close proximity to what you're looking for. I would still suggest, you know, learning your color mixing really well, but this is still a form of color mixing and would get you used to some of the steps with a program to follow, and should be able to help you understand how to see value in saturation.